Gordon, but there was a name involved, and I can't just put the name together to me now either. Maybe it was kind of an Irish-English name. Gordon Swiss in.
Well, I can tell you where he was, but I can't tell you who he was.
And he was talking about the runway, the Burns, Hicks Corners, they call it, right?
Yeah.
Right between here, Highway 11 and Highway 23. And today is May the 14th, 1996. And I talked to Dave, and he said, come on up and visit with my dad here and say hello to the old-time cheesemaker here. And so then we're here with Walter and Dave Roelli. And it's May 14th, 1996 again, as I said. And Dr. Bill Hine is going to, for the Historic Cheesemaking Center, do a little video. And we'll just have a little conversation here as good as we can.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say, Nami Talk there, old Schweitzer here, and that Raleigh, I always remember him as, I always thought he was somebody after him, because whenever I seen him, he was running. Is that right? Your dad, he was on the go, you know, and he was 75 years old then, you know, and I saw him run to the house and run over to the store, and I said, when are you going to slow up? And, I guess there comes a time in life that you got to slow up a little bit, right?
A little bit.
And and your dad, what part of Switzerland did you say?
Bern.
He's a Berner. He came from Switzerland, and he made cheese over here at
Switzerland
and the
Free Silver Cheese Factory.
and some other ones, and then he came here.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea about what time that his dad came here?
Well, I've got an article with me
Okay.
that I think appeared in the Monroe Evening Times back in the mid-'60s, and they did
I brought him over here.
for
that one guy from whatever it is.
an interview with him and things, and I can't remember the exact dates, but it seems to me that it was in the latter. I can remember him saying in the latter 20s, and probably before that, because I think he was here at the Hicks twice, wasn't he?
Right.
He was here once, and then he went farming north of Darlington on F, and then returned back to the Hicks.
Yeah.
Which would be your grandfather and Walter's
yeah,
dad.
Adolf.
I remember Adolf.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still, what would put it this way, I'm old enough to pick it up too, you know, because remember Adolf, yeah. He didn't run as fast as you though.
No. Pretty fast though.
By golly, I take my hat off. Well, you sure got a beautiful place here, Walter,
Yeah.
with a lot of nice flowers, and I understand that you and their helper here was just out fixing the flowers, and
She
I
just
guess
picked one. Rose.
put in some roses there,
Yeah.
and of course that's flowers kind of goes with Swiss tradition, and of course we're always thinking about our Swiss ethnic background. Yeah, Walter, when I knew your Adolf and that, you were making cheddar then all the time right there, but in the Free Silver he probably made Swiss then.
Swiss, yeah.
And then you came along and took over after him.
Yeah.
And then you said what couple of different types of cheese did you
Brick
make?
cheese and cheddar and American cheese, yeah.
Did you make any Edam?
Yeah, I made Edam cheese.
Edam and American and American forms were mostly 40 pounds and
40 and 60.
those were the blocks, right?
And then we made the cheddars. They were 80 pounds.
The old the old cheddar hoops.
Yeah.
The original ones. The ones that if you don't have a car seat in the car or a wagon, you can use the cheddar box to sit on, right? And them old cheddar hoops, by golly, the old press.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any gas in the cheese?
Yeah, a lot of it.
When you first started.
Yeah.
I suppose. And you made cheese then with raw milk, right?
Raw milk, yeah.
Yeah. And then how would you take care of that gas? Just keep
Working it out,
working it out,
Working it
and
Yeah.
then finally with the gas you put it in the press.
Press.
Did you ever have any problems with getting cheese in the press and had gas in the press? And pushing it back?
Yeah.
But you never had any explode though, huh?
No.
Oh, that was quite a thing.
Yeah.
I got it. Walter, she'd really tighten her up, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember the press date? Or were you back to the blocks or?
I can barely remember as a kid going back not so much the press, but going back in the cooler and seeing them all setting out to dry. See, before we boxed
The round,
them
the
and
round
stuff. Yeah,
cheddars,
the round cheddar.
with the cheesecloth around
Yeah.
the, you know,
Yeah.
which
And,
was the old cheddar.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then loading them up, you know, at that time they'd all pile them in, I think 4 high, 3 or 4 high, and then out they go on the cart.
Well, you know, we're talking about cheddar, you know, that, you know, for years,
Yeah.
we had the delicacy of eating those curds and
Yeah,
salt,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Never ever realizing that someday that would be almost a better
Yeah,
seller
yeah,
than cheddar
yeah,
itself.
Yeah,
And of course, explaining this for a historic cheesemaking center, these curds, you put them all in this tub, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you put the cheesecloth inside,
Yeah.
and then you put them in this press, which
Yeah.
was in a cylinder.
Yeah.
And can you remember pulling that old
Yeah,
crank
yeah,
back?
yeah, yeah.
Huh? Give her one
Yeah,
more notch?
yeah.
Because those curds had a knit all together. Is that right?
That's correct. And then when the teeth on the press got wore, that would come back at you real fast.
Yeah.
That's the old cheddar. And then eventually now you have what we call it.
We have air cylinders that,
And that just has a continued
just a
flow.
continuous pressure on the cheese.
And of course, if it wasn't pressed together enough, they called it too much
Yeah,
open,
yeah,
and
yeah,
called
yeah.
mechanical hold.
Yeah.
The cheese was just as good, right?
Yeah.
But they always had to have a grater. I imagine, did any of your cheese ever go to the government, you think, through the war?
We don't know.
You
We don't know, no.
Yeah.
Could have went.
Yeah.
Could have went.
All right, now the brick, did you sell that to Trumpy in Monroe?
Yeah, yeah, he bought that. Yeah.
Bought the brick in there. He was more or less in the brick minster
Yeah, yeah.
business at that time through the war. Well, getting back to moving along here now, born a cheesemaker, still here at the
Yeah,
factory. And Dave, now can you tell me your experiences about when it comes into your mind here? Well, you first start, remember, when did your dad put you to work doing to start with?
Oh, as kids, we grew up around it. You know, it was just part of our life from the time we were able to know that there was something other than a bed. You know, I mean, we would play when they were working downstairs. Dad and Mom would wrap cheese in the evening, and us kids we'd play around it. You know, and then eventually we'd get to doing part of the work more than being more of a problem to them. You know, we'd get to old enough where we could help, but it was in a family situation where it was the business consumed your life. I think everything centered on the cheese factory, centered on taking care of the farmers and doing the job, and you really never could get away from it. And so as far as me remembering when I got into it, I can never remember not being in it.
Not being in it, that
Yeah.
was just your life. And Roller was telling me here earlier that they had some horses here, and the Burns was
Yeah.
big. Before they get the milk unloaded, get back in there, the pony was heading home, right? But when you came, it was mostly pickups and.
Yeah, I can remember as a kid, as a young guy, I went to grade school in the rural school just on top of the hill, and it was our big challenge. We had one neighbor that we knew held his milk the same time every morning, and if we hit it right, we always got a ride to school. We had to ask every day, but we were never turned down. And that was
Well, that's when the factory was really the almost the community place of the gathering. You know,
Yeah.
every morning, you know, get the news and
Yeah.
whatever happened. And then Huey did. Well, you people kind of led in this trucking industry. Let's kind of. Well, first we'll take the cheese a little further here. Then you came in and about what time of the year, or what would you say when you took over?
It was in the probably mid-'70s when I got making cheese full time. I hauled milk before that, and then the guys that were making cheese and Dad, they, the old fellas move on, and then I went in.
All right, on the trucking part, what truck did you start with? A covered cab?
Well, there were trucks around here for a long time. I think some of the first ones we had were the probably early 40s
Yeah.
Fords,
Yeah.
because I can.
Fords.
and they were just stake body trucks,
Yeah.
not near the
Can
size.
lids?
Yeah.
You could lose them. You didn't need an uncovered truck to lose them. I can remember when I was 16 and hauling milk, and and being a 16-year-old kid, had one of the first V8 powered trucks around, and the way it eat the muffler, so you never had a muffler. It was loud, nothing better for a kid than a V8 powered truck with no muffler. And I can remember picking up milk and going around the corner out on Country Club Road, and I can remember to this day, looking in the mirror and seeing those milk cans fly out of the back of the truck just like they were on a conveyor. And I don't know how he never killed me when I was 16, because I deserved it more then than I ever did. But you could lose lids, and
Lids, even cans on a good corner.
yeah. But that was just being a kid. And
All right, now your first pasteurizer was the
Kuzo.
Kuzo.
Kuzo, yeah. With the water
Milk
going over
falling
the top.
film, I think they
Yeah,
call it.
over the top,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
would heat it up to about
Yeah.
100, then she'd cool down,
Yeah.
kind of regenerate or
Yeah,
whatever they call it,
yeah.
regenerate the
Yeah.
cools back down, and that was the first pasteurizer. I think it was pretty popular
Yeah,
around most
yeah,
places,
yeah.
which really made quite a difference
Yeah,
in
yeah,
cheese
yeah.
making, right? All right, and then you made mostly cheddar, and did you ever make any of those with the round forms yet in the hoops, or were we already in the blocks?
We were doing blocks when I
Little blocks.
went in that, making 60s, I think,
Yeah,
when I
60s.
started.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually, that was primarily for Borden's,
Yeah,
and then we moved over to 40s.
Now, this was a co-op, right?
yeah,
Yes.
Did you buy any milk at all, or was it strictly a co-op right up to the end?
yeah.
Oh, we bought milk.
Yeah,
Besides that, I bought milk on the market, because some of the cheese markets I had demanded more milk than I could acquire through the co-op, and the demand was at the time was for cheese curds, and was real heavy on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then nothing much the rest of the week. So I had to get milk in to satisfy that, and then not be really tied to it for the rest of the week, because I really didn't have a market for blocks that would absorb that.
You know, there's quite a little market yet today, but
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
you used to supply us with the curds, because we were
Yeah,
making
yeah,
mozzarella over there
Yeah.
at the time. And I tell you, I get curd here and there in different factories, but I never found any that equaled yours. You really had the system. I don't just know what it was, because it had that firm body and it didn't really drain,
No.
and we even call it squeakies because it squeaked.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And like I said before, and I have to chuckle myself to think, see, we had all that curd in front of us. We
Yeah.
now just a high class, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a specialty, and
Yeah.
here we had what a thing we had. We
Yeah,
didn't realize. All right, Paul. Like I said, but then you bought this milk from other suppliers, is what you say, in the open market. But your regular farmer was a co-op right,
Yeah,
right
yeah,
to the
yeah.
end. This
Right
always
to the
was a cooperative
Yeah, yeah.
factory, if I recall it. You know? All right, and then the time came to where there just wasn't enough money in it,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
economically. And if I understand right, this cheese factory had been in process for making cheese for over 94 years.
Yeah, something like that.
It was, we closed in, I think it was 91.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I made just over 90 years that we kept her going.
If I remember right. Well, it was a landmark that was going.
Yeah.
But this is still kind of the landmark yet for
Yeah,
milk.
yeah.
Can you tell me how you got into grade A or into this trucking business? Do you remember that, Dave? Or
A little bit. Dad started it, I think, with 2 farms in about 1955,
Yeah, something
56.
like that.
And at the time, it was Dean Milk Company then. And they were big in the Rockford area,
Yeah.
northern Illinois area, and they really hadn't made much of an inroad in Wisconsin. And I was a young fellow at the time. Did you contact them, or did they contact you at the time?
No, they contacted me. They
Okay.
come up to see me.
I see.
And they're from Rockford. And so then I hooked up with them.
Yeah.
And that was the start of grade A in the business, and it really changed the
Yeah,
milk business in this area
Yeah, it did.
for Class B milk, as we
Yeah.
call it, or Class 2, or
Yeah.
Class 3. But it changed a lot because you couldn't compete against them.
No.
And they took the best farmers.
Yeah.
The one that wanted to advance and
Yeah.
it was young, and it really, as far as I was concerned, it was almost detrimental to the
Yeah.
factories. Now it's kind
Yeah.
of changed around,
Yeah.
but at that time they just took those best farmers right away from these little co-ops, and
Yeah.
somebody had to close.
Yeah.
Well, it became quite a successful thing as far as you're concerned.
Yeah.
You're still, this has been a transfer station for
Yeah.
Dean Foods
Yeah.
since that time,
Yeah.
and you'd say you started with 2 farmers. How many farmers do you think today comes in here about?
Oh,
Well, it's about, I think, around 200.
300.
Well, that we haul milk from for different
other-
various companies in 350 farms.
So that there's 200 that now come to this same area, same little establishment, or the same area, or, only it's right next door to
Yeah.
the cheese factory,
Yeah.
what I like to call it, to the same
Yeah.
landmark, you might say,
Yeah.
because it's still
To
Hicks
the
Corners
corner.
and Raleigh's.
Yeah.
Raleigh's name is still
Yeah.
there, and you have a cheese store over there,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Raleigh's,
Right.
and do you do any service work? No, you don't go out to farms to.
As far as
We got a field woman that does that.
well, we also what he means, Dan, is we have farm supplies.
Yeah.
You do have farm.
Yeah.
We have 2 vehicles out, 2
Yeah.
salespeople out
Mhm.
selling farm to farm with farm supplies.
So you're still in the dairy business
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a sense,
yeah.
and then you branched out on the milk hauling, and you're hauling for, what other firms are you hauling for?
Well, we
right now?
haul for Dean's. We also haul some NFO milk and some milk for Avonmore and Monroe, and for Old Wisconsin in Platteville, and Tri-State Milk Co-op.
Is that right?
That,
It's,
goes
well, how many
on.
trucks
And
do you
also
have?
for formulas.
17.
I don't want to forget about formulas.
We got 17 trucks.
16 now.
16.
well, give or take, you get
Yeah,
up to.
yeah.
One once in a while,
Well, one's
two,
on the
you know.
road, we might have
Yeah.
to borrow one once in a while, 16, 17 here. Dave, have you got that article here? I think.
I've got a couple articles.
I'm gonna stop this here for just a second here, and I wanna go over it, and I'd like to record this, and Doc, I'm gonna have you just take a little space here, okay? Or the changes that made it harder for factories, we'll just,
Well, yeah, I guess what I'd say is,
what did you see that was coming, you know what I mean?
well, what I saw was that the need for very deep pockets, or diversification. You either had to have a specialty cheese that you could sustain the sale of, or if you were buying milk on the market and you were making it, which what I would consider cheddar as a commodity cheese. The only thing, the difference was that I had 2 or 3 days production that was curd that made it a specialty cheese. But commodity cheese is subject to the market and the ups and the downs.
You want to say that if I ask you, would you?
I could come up, if you
Yeah, that's just something, you know what I mean? We'll just say here, well, now, like, I see the changes. I'll talk it in and I'll set you on the track,
All
okay?
right, we'll see what we come up with.
Okay, and we won't mention the other, but I gotta say this to Doc. A question I kinda forgot to ask you. How many children do you have?
4 of them.
4 of them.
3 boys and a girl.
3 boys and a girl? Well, I understand the boys are all working,
Yeah.
they're still in the dairy business.
Yeah.
So really, all of you haven't really changed too much.
No,
You
no.
just went from the cheese factory business to the
Grade
to grade A.
Yeah.
And Dave, I'd like to ask you, all these factories closed, and of course, I heard them say, well, Cookie's closed over here, the Big's closed, and this factory over here closed, and then
Yeah.
this landmark here, when Raleigh's closed,
Yeah.
then the farmers really started
Yeah.
talking, So
Yeah.
we hate to see these factories, fall by the wayside, because it was our lifestyle for many years. What in your mind do you think the transition that you see that came, what was going on in your mind?
Well, I think there was some instability in the cheese market, I think, in the time. And that was a contributor. There were a lot of things that contributed. I think that required deep pockets, being able to weather the ups and downs in the market, because your pay price always had to be competitive. And if the cheese market went down, you couldn't necessarily reflect that in what you paid for milk, because the grade A influence in the market caused that pay price to stay high. And if you wanted to be competitive and keep the farms, you had to be competitive in pay price. And at the same time, I think there were the onset of food ingredient labeling and more concern as far as consumers go as to what cheese was and what it was made of, and that brought on a whole raft of testing requirements that not necessarily the small plant could handle. I mean, there just was a change in that attitude. It wasn't simple that you could make a vat of cheese and box it and send it. I mean, you had to document it, just about everything there was about it.
Did you have any problems with whey or affluent or?
No.
Well, we were
Took
kind of
away
lucky.
Back out to the farmers.
And we did that, and then we had the whey plant in Monroe
Yeah.
that took it. It was kind of a trade-off, you know. It was for years, whey was a very desirable commodity for farms because a lot of them had pigs, and that's what they used as part of their feeding program. But things in that vein changed too, and so you had a few people that wanted the whey, but they didn't want it on a regular basis, or they didn't want it in a way that the Department of Natural Resources was happy with the way you handled it. But that was a contributing factor. I think, though, the biggest thing was, in our case, was our plant setup. Now, we had a very nice plant. We had some aging machinery. The machinery in it was 20 to 25 years old. But it was geared to making a 30,000 pound vat of milk in the cheese. And I think as far as our curd business goes, which was very good for us, that worked fine. But you had to have the flexibility to make other things. And with that kind of equipment, we didn't have it. We didn't have the financial resources to make major changes in the plant. So I think what it ended up was we just kind of looked at it and said, well, we just be better rather than to go into debt and think maybe it might get paid off, or maybe one of your sons will pay it off. I couldn't see doing that.
All right, now when you first went out on the route, when Walter was still here and you were a young boy, how far out did you go picking up milk? When you first started, I'm talking about the minimal now, you know.
Well, when we were just riding along with Dad as a hired man, I think if we got probably 6 miles away from the plant, we thought we were a long way from home.
Yeah, that was only your circular diameter, diameter going around from the plant here. And now, how far do you go?
Well, now we're picking up milk from all the way from Bagley.
How far is that?
That's probably 70 miles, 60,
70
miles.
miles.
I don't know, I'd have to look at the map.
From 6 or 7
And then
miles?
we're over around in the Stoughton area, which is 55, 60 miles the other direction. The only thing, we do stop at the state line. We don't.
Is that right?
We don't go over the state line.
No.
But Dean's picks up there, not too much, or?
Well, Dean's and there's companies that do, but we kind of historically had moved north, west, and east, and the south part was a little bit different, I think, mainly because of the companies that were already in business there, and the fact another part was the requirements for truck drivers and transportation and duplication and regulation and rules that we just didn't feel like we wanted to contend with that much.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you both. By golly, Walter, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a couple of years, by golly. And I got to say this, you know, it's very impressive out here. When you go by, this is still Roelli's, you know, and it's been here for years, and I think you made the right decision. Not that I'm a judge, but golly, it sure shows as far as economically is concerned. You've got 16, 17 trucks, and those are just the trucks to pick up the milk. And then you transfer all that milk here, or you haul it for other places also. And Dean's milk, where does that mostly go then? To Rockford, or?
No, the milk we pick up goes to Shimon. and that's
And
their
how far-
bottling plant.
And how far is that from here?
That's probably 80, 90 miles, something like that.
So you go 60 miles west of here,
Yeah.
and you go another 80. So
Yeah.
milk is really, it's sure changed from the
Yeah.
the 5-6 miles or 3 miles we used to go with horses, right, Walter?
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite a change, and this is what we're trying to record because it's a new era that's coming. And you have the cheese store, and now a farm supply,
Yeah.
and the Roelli name's
Yeah.
still here at the dairy industry. And I want to thank you very much for being around, Walt. Good to see you, and thanks, Dave. And adios.